Hey everybody, Whitney with Girl Friday Crafts, and today we are going to make a honeycomb Easter bunny out of book pages. So the finished product is going to look a little something like this. And I'm making two different sizes. So the picture that you just saw is the larger one, which is approximately 8 and 3/4 inches without the ears. And I need to write that down for myself. Well, actually, I can write it on my template, can't I? And then the smaller one, which is what we're going to make in this video, is about 5 1/4 inches without the ears. So you're going to want two templates, which is what I have here. Small one and a large one if you want to make two different size bunnies. You're going to need 24 book pages. You just want to make sure that the page is large enough for whatever size bunny you're making. So the first thing you're going to do after you make your template is you are going to draw the template on the page. You're going to copy the template onto the page. Now, couple of lessons learned. Well, actually one lesson that I had to learn twice because I wasn't paying attention. You want to make sure that you draw the bunny on the folded side of the page. You also want to make sure that your template is a little bit flat on the bottom because you want the bunnies to be able to stand on their own. So you want a little bit of a flat cut at the bottom, so just to the bottom of the page. And I would recommend using either a fine liner or a red pencil or dark ink or pencil to draw your bunny on the template because it just makes it easier to cut. When I was doing this the first time, I just used a regular pencil on the book pages, and to be honest, I had a difficult time seeing it in some places in order to be able to cut it.
So you can do this however you want in terms of like an assembly line. So what I did the last time that I found helpful, what I'm doing now, is to just fold your pages first and get them all stacked up, and then draw your bunny, and then cut. Now, you don't have to do it that way, and if you're doing this with little kids, you know, maybe you want to make each bunny as you go. This would be a good kid. So we have all of our pages folded, and it's embarrassing to admit, and it's because I was multitasking. I was trying to draw the bunnies and cut them while I was listening to something, and so twice, I cut the bunnies on the non-folded side of the page, which of course doesn't work because they don't stay together to be able to glue them. Now, I used those pages to make the ears, and then I'll keep some of the rest of them to make embellishments and things like that. So, you know, did not go to waste, but it was kind of funny. I wasn't thinking about it at all when I did it the first time. I just drew the bunnies, and then I went to cut, and I was like, that's not going to work because I have to glue these insides together. I could have still cut them and glued pieces together, but that would have been harder. And then, okay, you know, no big deal. Keep the paper, it's fine. And so then, well, actually, I turned the pages, on some of the pages I just turned them inside out. So on my sample you can see some of my lines, but I don't think anybody really noticed.
Now, I will say this, my neck on my template is a little thin, so I would recommend giving yourself a little more of a lip there. So maybe instead of the bunny coming all the way out to here, the neck comes out to about there. So now we have these drawn, and so you're just going to take and cut the outline of your bunny. I recommend a smaller pair of scissors because you do need to make kind of a small turn around the neck. I will do another one of these where I make that neck a little bit thicker. I'm actually teaching this for an in-person class in a week, and I need to make, I'm not making them cut everything out. I'm gonna have everything cut out for them ahead of time. So when I make the templates for that, I'm gonna make the neck on this little guy a little bit wider.
Just make it a little bit easier. But smaller scissors work better to make that cut at the neck. I did try to stack a bunch of these on top of each other and use my craft cutter, like my little box cutter, to cut them out so I could cut out multiple at the same time. And because they're folded in half, that doesn't really work. There are some things that you can do out of the pages where you just stack them on top of each other and cut with a craft knife. Obviously, you want to be very careful when you do that. Actually, this just reminded me too, I need to get some scissors before my class. If you're making multiple, this is something you can do, like, make your little outlines, and then you can sit and cut while you're watching TV, provided that you can watch what you're cutting and your TV show at the same time. One of the other things that you can do, and I'm going to do this in my class too, is you can take some distress ink and put a little distress ink on the outside of the bunny. Now, I would recommend doing that once it's finished, because you'll have a better view of how everything is distributed. So you can kind of add the look where you want it, and you don't really have that visual until you get it all put together. You can really do this with any thickness of book pages. The thinner the book pages, if you're using an older book, so the first one of these that I did with a vintage, an old book that I have, you have to be more careful with cutting. You have to be more careful with applying the glue. A couple of times I was applying the glue, and I was moving kind of fast, and especially on the bunny's head where it's smaller. At the top, I, about tore the page because I was just moving too fast. Same thing with cutting. You just have to be a little more careful. You can cut, while cutting this with a craft knife to cut multiple at the same time isn't the easiest. You can lay several pages on top of each other and cut with your scissors to cut multiple bunnies at the same time. So you want to make sure you hold on to it pretty well so your pages don't slip. And then some of that's going to just depend on how thick your pages are as to how well you can do that. But that was 30 in one cut, and that cut well. So it's just a little bit easier. I'll count 2, 4, 5, 6, 8, 7, 12, 14, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. One bunny short, but I'm not going to draw on it. I'm just going to... I forgot to draw one bunny. You could also do where you only draw like on half the pages, and then just double up when you cut, so that you don't have to take the time to draw the bunny on every page. That would work as well. Now, I just did a nice cut on multiple pages without any problems, and now this one's going to be difficult. also kind of cool if you had decorative scissors and used decorative scissors to cut the edges out. That might be kind of neat for like a ghost or a pumpkin. I might have to try that out to see how that works. Because you really just need to have even, like you don't need clean edges, I wouldn't think. You just need even edges, meaning that the edges touch, so that you can glue it down properly. Definitely works better if you cut from the bottom up, so cut the bottom of the bunny first, the larger piece first. Or maybe that's because that's cutting away the smaller edge of the book, not dealing with as much loose paper by cutting at the bottom as opposed to doing a cut at the top. Last two here.
So we have all of our bunnies cut, and now we glue. So the first step in the gluing process is just to glue the pieces. Each individual bunny gets glued together. So you're going to put a little this way. So you're going to put a little bit of glue up here at the top, and you're going to put a little bit of glue here in the middle, and then a little bit of glue down here at the bottom. And then you're just going to glue the pieces together. Now, I will say this, the Elmer's glue that I used at first is the kind that turned purple, and that was very nice to be able to see where I got the glue. But I do think that craft glue is going to work better.
You also want to try to roughly get the glue in the same spot every time. I mean, not exactly, but you don't necessarily want to completely mix it up. And I would also recommend going in the same direction when you glue. Almost done. Just a couple of bunnies left. So this is the last one out of the book pages.
So we're going to set those aside for just a minute so that that glue dries. And now you glue everything together. So we take our bunnies. And this is another reason why you want that neck a little bit wider, because the neck is where your one glue spot goes. So you're gonna glue at the neck, and then you're going to glue right about at the middle of the tummy. And you're just going to put this down on top. And you're going to glue at the neck, and then right in the middle of the tummy. And that. And then we're going to glue at the neck and a little bit in the middle, and I'm going to add in one of our pieces of scrapbook paper, and you're going to glue at the neck and in the middle of the tummy. And then you're just going to layer all these on top of each other. And again, you're still going to try to make sure that you glue roughly in the same spot every time. Neck, right in the middle of the tummy. Getting a little bit of glue seeping out from the neck here. Go up the neck, in the middle of the tummy. And I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to take out 4 of these book pages. And then I'm going to make sure that I get this one last one a little bit closer to the end. This one last book page. So I set about 4 of the book pages aside. I took out 4 total because we had 24 book pages to start with. And then we added in 4 sheets of scrapbook paper. So I've got 4 book pages removed from the stack completely. And then I've got another 4 set aside because I want to make sure before I get close to the end, I put in this last piece of our scrapbook paper. Oh, I think I forgot to put some glue. If you forget to glue a spot, you'll know. And every once in a while, you might want to just kind of stop and push everything together just to make sure that glue is kind of holding. I did that when I was making the first one. Completely forgot to glue one of the bunny pieces. So when I picked it up to start to open it up and glue it together, it came apart halfway through. Okay. So now we're going to add in our last piece, scrapbook paper. So this is our last bunny piece. So we have everything glued together. Now, I am going to recommend that you let this sit for at least 2 to 3 minutes before we take the last step, which is to glue in the 3 places again and then open it up. That's going to give that glue a little bit of time to dry and cure so that when you're messing with it, it doesn't separate. Also, why I recommend a craft glue rather than just Elmer's glue, Elmer's regular glue, because it's extra strength. That's designed to be used for crafting projects. So we're gonna let this sit for 5 minutes now and see if that helps. Okay, so we've let this sit for 5 minutes now. So here's hoping. I'm not gonna put glue on it at the end yet. We're just gonna try to get it open and wrapped around first. And if I can do that successfully, then we will add our glue. So I'm gonna turn it over this way. Okay, coming around, coming around, coming around, coming around. Okay, so I think that was definitely the issue. Yep, that was definitely the issue. All right, so we're gonna lay it back down. Okay, so we're gonna glue again, and you're gonna glue in 3 spots. So you're definitely gonna want to let this glue sit and dry. So I let it dry for 3 minutes, and when I wrapped it around, it was starting to pull apart on me. So I let it sit for another 5. Now I'm not saying you need to let it sit for 8. If I had let it sit for 5 to begin with, it might have worked out just fine. But it definitely needs to sit and dry well before you start to wrap it around. So I'm gonna kind of hold on to it in the middle. This is, again, kind of the trickiest part. I'm very suspicious that using the scrapbook paper was not a good idea. Too heavy to really work in conjunction with the glue when you start to wrap this around. Other theory is that while I initially thought that craft bond glue would be better, is that maybe it's actually not. Maybe it's a little bit too strong of a bond, and you want glue that's actually going to give a little bit more. Now, ultimately, you want this to hold together well too. See, that is just not. Now the problem is that I'm not letting this dry before I start to bend it, which I know is a problem because that was a problem when I did the bigger one. So I had to do this a little bit the last time too, kind of had to piecemeal it. Had to get it into one spot and then let it sit and then get it into the other spot. Okay. So I feel like the biggest issue, because here he is, he's done. I feel like the biggest issue was probably that scrapbook paper. That was not really the way to go. It's too heavy. He's glued. He's there. He's holding steady. So now we need to do the ears. And I made the ears about as tall as the head for the other one. So we're going to do that same here. So we're going to, I'm actually just going to use one of these pages of scrapbook paper, and this is the height I want the ear. And so what I did the last time was I just got that height and I just drew it down. I mean, it's not fancy. Don't overthink it. Don't worry too much about it. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's interesting because, nope, that's bigger. Okay. And you can make it a little bit pointier with the cut, right? I didn't make it quite pointy enough. So we're gonna fix that just with the cut and give it a little bit more of a point and then smooth it out. Okay. So now we have our small bunny ear template, and we're just gonna take one of these book pages that I cut the bunny out of. And just going to draw the ears out of that, maybe. One ear over here, and do the other ear. And there's a lot of things that you can do with these ears. You could do the ears out of the scrapbook paper, and that wouldn't be any issue or problem because you aren't layering anything, you're not bending anything, no folds, nothing like that. You're just gonna glue the ears to your bunny. So that is not an issue in terms of whatever you might want to cut these ears out of. You got that, and you're just going to put a little bit of glue down at the bottom, and then you're going to just stick your ear on your bunny kind of wherever you want them. You could also bend one of those ears. Okay, that did not work for whatever reason. Could also bend one of those ears down a little bit and make him a little bit of a flop-eared bunny, which would be kind of cute. Okay, so there's the ears. Let me move my camera up a little bit. Got his ears, and then the only thing left to do is put a little bit of ribbon around the neck. Take a little piece of ribbon. Test my skills here. If I can tie this backwards. And make a little bow. And there you go. So that's, again, another reason why you want that neck to be a little bit bigger. But either way, he's still cute. Angle this up. Actually, I'm going to take it out of this. Sorry about that. All right, thanks for watching, everybody, and hanging with me while we worked out that problem. And I will see you next time. Bye.